Hey, Jason.
Hey, Mayhem. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well as well. It's great to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to get on and chat with you and your crew here. Excited to show you guys what we've got going on at TrendSpider.
Absolutely. You guys have been making a lot of changes to the platform too. Things have been getting better and better, and I've always loved it. I've been using TrendSpider for about 3 years now, so I've got to say I've been a fan for a while, but I feel like you guys just never stop innovating, which is always so cool to see.
That is absolutely the case. It kind of seems like every time we come up with a big idea, we start working on it, and then a new big idea gets generated, and they just keep kind of going at it. Russ is an incredible developer. Dan's got big ideas. Everybody on the team's got big ideas, and a lot of TrendSpider traders have really cool ideas that they share with us via chat and that sort of thing. So we're always kind of trying to iterate and create new tools for folks to help make the whole process of analysis and understanding trading a little bit easier.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. All right, let me just make sure I've got everything set up on my end here, and then we can fire this right off.
Cool. I am sharing my screen. I can't tell if you guys can see it. Maybe you
I can see it.
That for me. Okay, cool. And as I switch through tabs, are you seeing the different tabs too?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so I believe that we are good to go. Let me just put out an announcement here that we're getting started, and then we can get this show on the road. This should be awesome.
Okay, yeah, great. Let me know when you're ready for me, and I'll just start firing away.
All right, Jason, let's go for it. And what I'd like to do is have you show us sort of what you all have been working on, give us a primer on the basics of how to use TrendSpider, and then also just a Q&A at the end of the presentation. I think that would be awesome, and I'll start collecting questions. So if you're in the audience and you're watching and you have a question, share it in the chat whenever you want, and we'll be looking in those chat rooms to answer those questions as we get closer to the end of the presentation. So, and if you're not able to stay for the whole time or you want to watch it again, we are recording. We will post this up later as well. So be sure to check that out if you want to have an opportunity to look at it again later as well.
Awesome. Well, again, Mayhem, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for being here and tuning in. I'm going to give like a 10,000 foot view overview of the platform for anybody who hasn't seen it ever, or maybe hasn't seen it in a while, just to kind of give you direction on where things live, where different tools live. And then I'll kind of spend the majority of the time kind of digging into the main tools and some of the new features that we've brought to the platform here over the past, couple of quarters. But when you open up your TrendSpider account, obviously charts in the middle, and then tools flank all four corners of your chart view. So you've got all of your drawing tools on the left-hand side. On the top here, you've got a lot of the auto analysis tools. This is something that we became relatively known for over the past couple of years. These tools have existed. The auto fibs that automatically draws a fib sequence on the most recently completed move. You got the auto trends that automatically draw trend lines, the most mathematically sound trend lines per your time frame. You've got auto candlestick pattern recognition. I've got a bunch of strat patterns up here. I was working with Jermaine the other day. Auto chart pattern recognition. The ability to just turn on, different types of chart patterns, whether it be broadening patterns, channels, head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders, triangles of different types, wedges of different types. We offer automatic discoverability on all of those different patterns. And then we can also utilize those patterns elsewhere on the platform that I'll get into in a little while. We've got heat maps that allow you to kind of visualize, kind of a little bit similar to your book map that I was watching earlier in your stream. Couple of different types of heat maps that give you some different ways to analyze potential areas of support resistance. And then alerts and bots and visual scripts scripts. We're going to get into this here in just a little bit. On the right-hand side, you've got your widget panel. So your widget panel includes things like your various watch lists. Of course, you can make your own watch list. We offer tons of different pre-made watch lists that you can utilize, different index lists and sector lists and industry lists. You can bring scanners into your watch list here. You can utilize different custom lists like Wall Street Bets, top mentioned. I actually utilize these particular lists a lot because, I get caught up working in the platform, and this is just a quick and easy way to see, well, what's social talking about right now? What are the hot names that everybody's kind of talking about on social? This is a great way to find them. But you've got, your alerts widget and your news widget for, up-to-date news releases from Benzinga. You've got analyst estimates information here. You got seasonality. Seasonality, obviously, a pretty popular tool that lots of traders like to utilize. Break seasonality down in a lot of different time frames, be it monthly, week of the year, day of the week, hour of the day. You can exclude periods. If anybody watched our election event, I did a whole piece on, what ETFs and what sectors tend to do the best during election years and which ones tend to do the best after elections. In the months that follow an election, in the year that follows an election, you can exclude periods from your seasonality to get really refined. But this just gives us a basic understanding of, which days of the week or which months of the year or which weeks of the year tend to perform the best. And you can break this down also by a lot of different technical ways, whether it be by RSI or relative volume, price above these key moving averages. But the main one is just green, red candles. How often does it do well in different times of the year and so on? You've got insider trading information. You've got a little notes widget. You've got a reports widget, lets you see things like revenue and earnings information just kind of right off the bat. You can get revenue and earnings estimates. This is just kind of like one very small piece of the fundamental data that we've brought to the platform. I think we brought it maybe towards the end of summer, midsummer, something like that. We brought all kinds of fundamental data points to the platform. You can utilize them across the platform. We'll get into that in a little bit. Unusual options, smart checklists, all of these tools are available here as side panel. We call these just widgets. Down at the bottom, your key major tools, your strategy tester, your market scanner, your what's happening now, your stock market maps, your custom indicator editor if you're a JavaScript script writer, and then the newest tool to the platform, the AI Strategy Lab. Now, before we get into these tools here, I want to take a moment and talk specifically about visual scripts, because visual scripts, all of these major tools down here, well, not all of them, but the strategy tester, the market scanner, the alerts, a lot of them are going to kind of lean on and utilize the scripts. So scripts are something that you're going to work with a great deal in the platform. So in the script manager, you've got tons of scripts available for you. A script is just a way to define a set of conditions, right? And it can be, anything you can think of, from price to indicators to fundamentals to chart patterns, anything that you can think of. Truly, type in Bollinger Bands and you're going to have a list of different types of Bollinger Band setups that you can just choose one and it's going to load up the script for you. And this script you can then send elsewhere across the platform. What I want to do, though, I want to kind of talk you through what you might see when you go into the market scanner, the strategy tester, and so on. You're going to see something that looks like this. Is like a basic template to build your own scripts with. You can choose to create scripts by just like a set of drop-down menus using this add a new condition from the list. So if I were to do that, it's going to open up a drop-down menu where I can begin selecting things like price or indicator, candlestick patterns, chart patterns, AI models, fundamentals, relative performance, and so on. So if I just wanted to say maybe, today's close is greater than yesterday's, I can script that using just these drop-down menus. So I could say like price daily close is greater than price daily close. and then maybe say 1 candle ago. So today's close is greater than yesterday's close. Essentially, the current price right now is greater than Friday's close. But I can also add conditions in other ways. I can utilize this human language condition. This is kind of like ChatGPT for creating conditions. So for example, if I wanted to say like 8 EMA greater than 21 EMA, if I don't know how to script that, or I don't want to go through the process of all of the drop-down menus, I can just write it in there and it's going to build that script for me. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a couple other things, maybe a price close greater than VWAP. And let's also say, I don't know, RVOL greater than 1. Right, so now I've got a script that defines a set of very basic conditions that perhaps I might be interested in getting an alert on for a particular name, or perhaps looking for any names within a particular list that are meeting all this criteria right now. I might be interested in strategy testing this as like an entry criteria. I want to get in when this happens. I want to get out when something else happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say mayhem, this mayhem script, and say save. And so with that script saved, I can now utilize it all across the platform. This is a kind of a really key component of the TrendSpider infrastructure, how things work around the platform. Now, I can access this script in a couple of different ways. I can, within the script manager here, I can send it places. So I can go down to where it says send to. I could choose to send it to an alert. Like if I wanted to create an alert, I got the Apple chart up here. If I wanted to create an alert on Apple for these conditions, I would just choose send it to the alert and, you know, maybe call this mayhem script. Choose the amount of days that I want the alert to live in my system. Let's say maybe the next 50 days. I choose the amount of triggers, that is, how many times do I want to be alerted on these conditions being true over the next 50 days? Because presumably they might be true more than once over the next 50 days. So maybe I say the next 10 times. And I say create alert, and now that alert is living in the system. I can come over to here, my alerts widget, and add it to a visible column, and there's my mayhem alert for Apple here. Right, so now I'm going to get alerted on Apple when those conditions are true. TrendSpider is now my eyes and ears on those very basic conditions. I can also come back into Visual Scripts though and send it elsewhere. Right, let's say I wanted to scan for these conditions. I can choose to send it to the market scanner. And what that's going to do, it's going to open up the market scanner right off the bat with those conditions that I predefined in the scanner. The only thing I have to do from here, I need to define, you know, the list. Where do I want to be looking for these conditions to be true? In this particular case, maybe the S&P 500. I'm going to choose turn the current candle toggle on, meaning I'm looking for these conditions to be true today throughout this list. If I were to turn the current candle toggle off, which is what it was on by default, since these are all daily conditions, the daily candle isn't closed today. So if with the current candle toggled off, it's looking for the most recently closed candle. So essentially it'd be looking for all of these conditions being true on Friday. But I want it to be true today. So I'm going to turn the current candle toggle on. I run the scan, and in a few seconds, I should get a handful of names back that are meeting this criteria right now. I know right off the bat, the RVOL greater than 1, that criteria is kind of tough to beat or tough to meet right now. We're only a couple hours into the trading day. So out of the S&P 500, there's just 4 names that have above average daily volume right now. They're already trading more volume on the day than they do on average. So maybe I want to adjust this a little bit. Rerun the scan. Now I'm going to get back more names. Maybe if I want to, I can even add a condition here. You know, maybe there's something else fundamentally or something that I want to add. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe earnings this quarter were greater than year over year, or maybe there was like a year over year increase in earnings on the most recent earnings report. So we'll say greater than earnings, say 4 quarters ago. And so now we'll get just a little bit more refined list. And you could go wild here. You know, our scripts, especially particularly in the scanner and in the alerts, they allow you to utilize up to 4 time frames at once. So, you know, I'm just keeping things simple by only utilizing the daily here. But you can go wild. There's lots of different ways that we can adjust the conditions. We can adjust which ones we want to be true. Currently, I've got it selected as all of the following. You could choose any or none. You can create different condition groups, different sets of conditions, and define them in different ways. You can give them candle windows within which they happen. Instead of happening today, you can say all of this stuff happened within the past 5 days if you wanted to. But again, I'm just trying to keep it pretty simple to kind of show you the basic functionality of how this works. So once we have our list of scan names, there are a handful of things that we can do with this list. First thing to do, maybe you want to know what names are meeting this criteria perhaps every day, or you want to like have a schedule which you receive this or rather the names that are meeting this criteria. So in the past couple months, we released a new functionality called scheduled scanning. So I'm just going to call this Mayhem scan so that I can save it. With this scan saved, it allows me to then run it on a schedule. So I'm going to select that. In run on a schedule, I can choose to have this scan sent to my email any day of the week. I could choose the time that I want to receive the scan. It can be any 30-minute period pre-market or after hours. Once you have this chosen, you would just choose create. And then every single day, you're going to get an email from us at the time that you define, whatever time that is. It's going to look like this. And it's going to tell you what names are meeting that criteria, what names are new to the list, like what names are meeting it today that weren't meeting it yesterday. And then it's also going to tell you what names are no longer meeting that criteria. So, one of the processes that many of us traders take early in the morning or maybe at the end of the day, right? We run our scans to see, well, what names have our setups that we're interested in, and potentially that could be a bit of a time-consuming task. This process allows you to kind of set it and forget it. You can schedule, I believe it's 3 scans, might be 5, but I think it's 3 scans at a time to be sent to you. So 3 different setups, whatever those might be. And again, like I say, these are color coded to let you know what's on the list that wasn't on it yesterday. So new names to the list, those are going to be the blue names. You've got the gray names, which they were on the list the previous day. They are on it again today. So they're still meeting that criteria. And then the red names, they were meeting that criteria yesterday. They're no longer meeting it today. So you can just very quickly kind of hone in on key names that are doing the thing that you're interested in without having to, go into the platform and find them, run the scans yourself. Now, another component of the platform that I'd like to talk about is the stock market maps. Before we get into those, though, I want to show you kind of a way to further utilize this list of symbols that we just got, right? So we've run this scan, we've got these names back. They are all potentially interesting to us, but there are a lot of options here, which means more analysis, right? The goal is always to kind of get to the trade as quickly as possible, whatever the trade might be, get to the right name as quickly as possible. So now that I've got all these names that are meeting this criteria, how can I analyze them further to understand which one might be the best fit for whatever I'm trying to do or whatever trade I'm trying to take? So one of the first things that I think of to do is saving this as a watch list. When I save it as a watch list, what that allows me to do, basically, using this clone into a new watch list option, it creates a static list. And by creating this static list, I can visualize it over here. Right, this is one way. So here's my list of names that are now meeting this criteria. But I can come into a stock market map. This is one visualization tool that you can utilize to analyze a set of names. 2 different types of stock market maps. We've got the tile maps that you're probably all familiar with, your basic heat map, and then bubble maps here. Within both of these maps, you're going to be able to customize them. And you can customize them in a couple of different ways. First off, you need a list of names to input into both of these maps. Well, we just created that list, right? The Mayhem scan that we just turned into a static list. So if I search Mayhem in the list, well, now I'm adding all of the names from the scan that I just ran into this bubble chart. Now the bubble chart, I can control the calculation of the X and Y axes, and I can set different parameters for them. And I'm just going to talk you through kind of how I use these. Feel free to go wild with it. But the way that I kind of use them is on the bubble maps, I think about price change. So I think about bubble maps the same way I would think about like a rotation map. I use bubble maps to kind of understand rotation over a period of time. So I generally will have these set to 7 and 30-day calendar change. You can set them to daily change versus 52-week high or low, week to date change, 7-day change, month to date, 30-day calendar, year to date. And you can choose dollar or percentage change. But generally, I have my x-axis here on the 7-day change, y-axis on the 30-day change. And by being able to define that, right, I can kind of quickly see, okay, over the past 7 days, any names that are far over here to the right, those are the names that have moved the most over the past 7 days, because we're going from negative performance on the far left to positive performance on the far right. So I know right off the bat, Google, best performer of the group over the past 7 days. That's an interesting, oh, actually, I'm wrong. Tesla, best performer of the group over the past 7 days. And not only that, but also best performer of the group over the past 30 days. So, okay, Tesla probably needs to be in focus if I'm looking for that, really great performance over those 2 time periods. And perhaps maybe Teradyne needs to be in the mix there, a name I need to be considering looking at. Maybe Google I need to be considering looking at. I could even be looking over here on the left-hand side because, again, even though Lululemon is down 2% or so over the past 7 days, it's up 22% over the past 30, right? So I can just very quickly analyze how these names that are all meeting my scan criteria, I might be interested in any of them. I can quickly see, how are they performing relative to one another? Do I want to focus on just the absolute leaders, a name like Tesla? Do I want to focus on the laggards? Maybe a name like MasterCard hasn't really moved very much over the past 7 days, only up slightly over the past 30 days. You could just quickly make those assessments using this bubble map. Another way that I like to use them is using ETF lists within them. And so again, just being able to quickly spot, that's just the index ETFs. Let me go to sector ETFs. Quickly being able to spot, sector rotation in this way. And maybe in this particular case, you'd want to use just a daily change and a 7-day change, right? Just to get a bit more of a closer view of, what's working in the right now, today, what's been working over the past 7 days. Of course, right now, today, SOXX is the top performer. It's also the top performer over the past 7 days, whereas energy is definitely performing poorly today. It's been performing poorly over the past 7 days as well. So, maybe I'm using this quadrant to kind of spot, okay, these are the laggards right now. I need to be keeping an eye on them for potential moves over the next week. These are the leaders right now. Maybe I need to be involved in the leaders for the time being, but I need to be keeping my eye somewhere down in here. On the on this side, sorry, I'm spacing on the name, the tile maps. The tile maps, again, the functionality is the exact same. I can choose my list of symbols, whatever it may be. Maybe I want to, again, go back to that mayhem scan. But in this particular case, I like to utilize some of the more fundamental data points, whether it be earnings per share or free cash flow or market cap. Market cap is one that I kind of find myself gravitating towards. Revenue, sales per share, those sorts of things. I like to create, I call them linear maps, meaning the tile size and the tile color both represent the same thing. That way, I don't have to really think about it too much. I know right off the top of my list, biggest market cap is Google, and I can kind of see down the list what names are meeting the criteria, how big they are. If I have a particular market cap size that I like to kind of focus on, this is a quick and easy way to spot that. I could, of course, also add a market cap condition to my scan so that it filters down to a very specific market cap that I'm interested in. But this is just a quick and easy way to kind of view relative performance, see how things are, like where the leaders, where the laggards are, and then also visualize those data points that you might be interested in. The next tool that has been around for a little while, but we've definitely brought quite a bit of new functionality to it, is What's Happening Now. So in What's Happening Now, these are data feeds of all different types of data, whether it be, unusual options data, insider trading data, analyst estimate data, earnings data, dividends data, Congress trading data, news, and so on. You can have multiple feeds at once. Right now, I've got an insider trading data. Maybe I want to throw up the unusual options feed as well. So the insider trading data here, this is showing me some different things. All of your what's happening now data feeds can be filtered pretty distinctively and in a way that'll get you quickly to the thing that you might be looking for. So, you have the basic feed. I'll actually just use the unusual options feed here to kind of show y'all or walk through this. So you have the basic feed. This is just every unusual options order that's coming through the tape in real time. But then I can add filters to this. So maybe I want to add a premium amount, and maybe say I'll say premium over $1 million, right? Maybe I want to add a style, a type. Are they calls? Are they puts? Maybe I want to use calls. Maybe I also want to define a tag. We'll call it, I don't know, let's see. Actually, let me just remove this real quick. We'll just add a tag here and we'll say sweeps. And maybe we want to see this within the past, I don't know, the past week or so. So I'll say after maybe last Monday. And so now I've gotten very specific, right? I've taken this idea of all the unusual options and I've whittled it down to just those over the past week that had a premium of over $1 million, that were calls, that were sweeps, right? We're just getting quite more specific. We could very quickly now filter by maybe ticker. Like this is what kind of makes sense to me to do, is filter by ticker, see which names are coming through the tape that are getting the most orders right off the bat. Cigna, I can see getting quite a few orders here over the past week or so. And kind of interesting, right? They're all kind of showing up on the January 15th, 2027. So this is just telling me right off the bat, all right, somebody or some group of people are pretty bullish on these, like way out of the money, because these are the 180 calls. I believe Cigna's trading at like almost $300. So these are way out of the money. They're way out in the future. Who is this? This gives me an idea of like where to go in digging and kind of looking for opportunities. The strategy tester, obviously a very powerful tool on the platform. You'll see things in the strategy tester that we saw in visual scripts. Well, you'll see them in the market scanner too. That visual script component, or the kind of like the tool where you build a visual script, is going to be the same whether you're in visual scripts creating a new script from here, or you're building your script in the scanner, or you're building your script in the strategy tester. That's why I wanted to start there, because like I said, you're going to see this everywhere. So maybe in this particular case, maybe we want to run a strategy using that little script that we just built a little while ago. Instead of using the visual scripts to send it to the strategy tester, I can utilize this load from template button as well. And I can search Mayhem. And here's that same script. And when I choose it, it loads it in as entry criteria. To test a strategy, you have to, of course, define an exit condition. I'll just do something really simple. We'll just do like a, I don't know, 1% take profit and a quick little stop loss here, maybe like 0.3%. You choose your time or your back test length. How far back in time do you want to test? I'm going to test 10,000 candles on the daily, and it's going to run the strategy on Cigna here, right? And so very quickly, I'll be able to say, well, of the names that are in meeting my criteria, I happen to stumble upon Cigna here. I wonder if this particular name might perform well on this strategy. You get a bunch of data back, and I can answer questions about this if you guys are interested. I don't want to get too in the weeds here. I'd rather focus more on another tool that we brought to the platform recently called the Variance Explorer. So one kind of difficult piece of strategy testing is simply going through the process of finding which name works the best, which time frame works the best. If you're like most traders, you're probably not just solely focused on one symbol, right? You're maybe focused more on a strategy and looking for names that are meeting that criteria right now. The Variance Explorer is our answer to that problem. as you could see, you get a lot of data back when you run a strategy, all kinds of different tabular data, max drawdown, and total performance of the asset versus the strategy itself, your win rate, and all these sorts of things. Understanding that data is one piece. Comparing that data across different time frames or different names is a whole other monster. And previously, it was very tricky to do. The Strategy Variance Explorer makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do, just going to call this Mayhem Strat and say save. And then I'm going to open up the Variance Explorer. And so in the Variance Explorer, there are a handful of things that I can define. I can define the strategy. I can define the time frame or time frames that I want to test on. I can define the depth. How far back do I want to test? And then I can define the symbols that I want to test it on. Now, in the Variance Explorer, you can utilize up to 52 variants at once across strategies, time frames, depths, and tickers. So if I just wanted to test this one strategy, maybe I specifically want to focus in on the hourly time frame, I can choose up to 52 symbols to test at one time to compare. But I don't have to set the distribution that way if I don't want to. You can mix and match whatever distribution you want up to 52 variants. So multiple strategies with multiple time frames, with multiple depths, with multiple symbols. Well, when we created that watch list, another thing that you can utilize a watch list for is variance testing. So if I go up to where it says load from watch list here, and I type in Mayhem, there's my Mayhem scan. Here's all the symbols that are meeting the criteria of my Mayhem scan. So now these are all the names that are meeting my entry criteria for the strategy, right? And let's just pretend that this is a strategy that I have done some deep work on, I'm really confident in, and now I know all of the names right now in my list that are meeting that entry criteria. Now I need to figure out which one is the best one to be trading. So this is the fast track to getting that information, right? Got my strat selected. I've got my time frame that I want to trade it on. I've got my back test depth, and then I've got all 33 symbols that are meeting that criteria right now. I click compute, and within just a couple of seconds, I'm going to get a whole suite of data back. Essentially, it's running that strategy on every single name on that time frame at once. And ultimately, what it's going to create is a gigantic spreadsheet style list of all of that data. So hopefully this will come back here shortly. We are putting it through the ringer here. It's doing a lot of work. So now I've got all of that data back. I've got all of the names here listed, and then all of the data on all of those names. Net performance of the strategy versus net performance of the asset over the same period of time. The amount of positions that I took, my win percentage, my maximum drawdown relative to the maximum drawdown of the asset, my average return, my reward to risk ratio, my expectancy, and so on. And I can filter by all of this data. So right now I'm filtered by net performance of the strategy. So right off the bat, I know APH, best performer total returns of all of these names. It also has a pretty low max drawdown. Pretty nice to see. If max drawdown is the thing that's most important to me, maybe I'm really trying to avoid some risk. I know right off the bat that Garmin, this strategy happens to work. It gives the best risk control on Garmin, a 6.4% drawdown over the past 7,000 candles versus a 57% drawdown on the asset. So I'm not getting nearly the return of the asset. I'm getting about 1/3 of the return as the asset, but I'm taking dramatically 1/10 of the risk. It's pretty cool to see, right? This is information that, it would be tricky to discover this and keep track of all of this. So, maybe I've run this test and I decide, well, none of those returns are really all that interesting to me. But, I do know right off the top that, let's see, what are the three best names? APH, Costco, and EW are the best performing names of the group. Maybe I want to focus in on those. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and remove these other names. We'll keep APH. Actually, I'll just remove everything really quick because it's kind of a little bit easier just to remove stuff and then add it back. That way I can also show you how to add things manually. So I'm just going to type in APH here. I'll type in cost. I'll type in EW. We'll remove CAG. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll say, okay, well, those three names are the names that perform the best on the hourly. What happens if I test them on a bunch of different time frames? Maybe there's a time frame that does better than the hourly. So I'll just select all those different time frames for those three specific names, and I'll rerun the variance test once more. And so right off the bat, I know Costco or Costco 90 minute gives me the best return. Does it have the types of data that I'd like to see, whether it be win rate or max drawdown or reward to risk ratio? That's the type of stuff you got to go through. But this is just a very quick and easy way to get you from, I found all the names that are meeting my criteria. I have this strategy works, run the strategy, and then hone in on the best names of the bunch to kind of be trading. So that's the Variance Explorer. One kind of last tool here. I don't want to take up too much of time and want to definitely leave some time for any questions that come along. The newest tool that we've brought to the platform, if you follow us on social or you pay attention to our YouTube channel or anything like that, we've been talking a lot about this. This is the AI Strategy Lab. So what we've just done here in the strategy tester, we've built what we would call an algorithmic strategy, right? We have manually defined all the specific indicator inputs, all of the specific criteria that's getting us into and out of the trade. The AI Strategy Lab is designed with another idea in mind. Developing your entry criteria for a strategy, developing an algorithmic strategy in general can be a very time-consuming process. You got to know quite a bit about indicators and price action. You got to know quite a bit about technical analysis. You generally need to know how to code. Obviously, we've just shown you that you do not need to know how to code at all on TrendSpider to utilize all of the tools. And then you also need to do a lot of back testing. We utilize the variance tester to get us somewhere, but did it get us to where we would really want to be? You could argue it didn't. The returns weren't as good as I would normally want to see. I would probably want to do some refining to get those things better. But again, all of those little steps, refining, changing inputs, that sort of stuff takes knowledge of what I would be looking for in the first place, and then what those tools do, what those indicators do, and how they work. The idea behind the AI Strategy Lab is kind of to remove that process, the needing to know deeply how all of these indicators work, needing to go through that process of like really refining the very specifics that that your strategy is built off of. Instead of doing that, we walk you through a handful of kind of broad brushstroke components. When you're creating a model in the lab, the first thing you have to do, you have to define data to train the model on. You have to pick a section of the chart that you want the model to learn off of. And generally, we suggest that you pick a section of the chart that's pretty volatile, that has quite a bit of swings in it, has a lot of different types of price action, be it downtrends, uptrends, sideways action. Pick an area of the chart that really kind of has a lot going on. Once you've defined that section of the chart, the next thing that you're going to want to do is choose your prediction horizon. In X candles, up to 50 candles, the price is likely to hit a take profit of X, but not likely to hit a stop loss of X. And you can adjust these things per, what makes sense for you. If you want a very quick trade, maybe you want to utilize a 10 candle window. If you're utilizing a 10 candle window, you got to think reasonably about the asset that you're training with, and what's reasonable within a 10 candle window and the time frame you trained on. If I'm using a 10 candle window on a 15-minute time frame, I'm probably not going to get 1.5%, right? It's not a reasonable window. Maybe a reasonable window is more like 3%. Well, if my take profit is 3%, what is a reasonable stop loss for 3% or 0.3%? Maybe a reasonable stop loss is 0.1 or 0.05 or 0.15, whatever makes sense to you. You're going to get a automatic risk to reward measurement here. I won't go into the big details of R and how to think about R. Hopefully some of you guys are familiar with it. If not, we do have R calculators on the platform you can utilize. You're going to get back a chart that looks like this. And I like to call this the signals chart. Signals chart just tells you which candles on the time frame you selected, which candles can actually meet that criteria. Which candles within 10 candles of those candles existing actually hit your take profit before your stop loss got hit. So any candle that's yellow meets the criteria. And you can see as I adjust this, if I were to say maybe make my take profit 0.1, maybe make my stop loss 0.025, I'm going to get a different selection of candles. If I were to make my take profit, I don't know, 1%, and make my stop loss 1%, I'm going to get a different selection of candles. And really the trick here is to create a set of conditions here that provide you with signals where you would actually want to see them. Do you want to be getting, would you want to see a signal at these particular places? If you have just all yellow candles, that's going to be something that you would probably want to avoid. You want to be looking for kind of pops of candles where you'd want to see them. You want to be maybe avoiding particular types of price conditions, depending on what you might be looking for. Once you've defined that, then you define your model type. We have a couple of different model types to choose from of varying complexities, random forest being the most complex, logistic regression being the least complex. We won't get into the details there. And then you define your inputs. And your inputs can be something as simple as just giving it a prompt. We have a bunch of examples made. These are all examples. If you select one, let's use focus on potential reversal signals for my prediction horizon. It's just going to start thinking, and it's going to, again, it's going to train, it's going to analyze the section of the chart that you selected. It's going to look for all the candles that meet your prediction targets. It's going to use the AI model type that you select to create inputs that seek to provide a signal when those conditions are true. And just that quickly, I can start training a model. I'm going to get a model back. And this is the process of utilizing the AI Strategy Lab. Now, this is a very broad brush example and expression of how to go through this process. We have a ton of materials available to help you with the thinking through of how to get specific with each of those sections. If you go to trendspider.com/blog, you're going to see the very top two blogs. We've got a blog that introduces the AI Strategy Lab, just tells you all about it. It links you to a bunch of developer documentation right here that goes into very specifics about all those different sections that I just went over. We also have another post, building an AI strategy with the lab. In this post, we break down an entire process of building a strategy, why we've chosen specific sections of the chart to train on, and all that sort of stuff. It's got an accompanying video. This video will do a better job explaining this in a very short period of time to you than I could do in 30 minutes, to be honest. We've also, last week, or maybe, yeah, it was last week, I believe, we did this live webinar where we built a strategy using the lab on Tesla. This is an hour-long deep dive into the thought process, again, the thought process behind crafting a model. So I really, really encourage y'all to take, if you're interested in the AI Strategy Lab, take the time to go through these two videos, because they're going to be able to get you to kind of more specifics that I unfortunately don't have the time to really dig deeply into today. But once you have a model, looks like this one turned out to be not so great, I can do lots of different things with it. I can utilize the try other model types button to create models using those same inputs, but using the different AI models that we offer. Remember, we offer 4. I can do things called crossbreeding, where I take, pieces of this model and pieces of that model. Let's say these two, for example, I can crossbreed them and create all new versions of these two models that happen to, look half decent. Once you've got a model that you're interested in utilizing across the platform, you can do what we call as deploying. And so you'll see the option, well, on a no-go, you can't deploy. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, here's one that has some, it tells me right off the bat that I should go back test it. I should play around with this model and see if there's anything to it. So very quickly, I can just deploy it. We'll just call this Mayhem model. Proceed, and deployed models are available across the platform as well. So if I were to go to the strategy tester and I go to my shared strategies here and type in Mayhem, here's my Mayhem model that I just deployed. I could run this model. I can run the strategy test of this model on the asset that I trained it on, or on any other asset. I can utilize this strategy the same way that I just did in the Variance Explorer, tested on a bunch of names. I can also utilize this as an indicator, right? If I type in Mayhem, it's going to do, it's going to provide me with signals where my model is telling me, you know, that criteria should, I'm pretty confident as this model, I'm pretty confident that you're going to get a good signal at these different places, right? So it's now a visual in cue to maybe potentially pay attention. If I wanted to, I could deploy this strategy as a bot, which means I could make it live if I wanted. I could utilize it as just a forward testing mechanic. I could, because I have this indicator now, I can apply it in things like alerts, right? I can say multi-factor alert. I can add a new condition. I can choose AI model. I could choose my time frame, whatever that time frame may be, select mayhem, and say signal emerged. And now with this set, I can get an alert on this name the next time that signal from that model appears. I could go to my market scanner if I wanted, and again, go to AI model, and I could scan the market right now for any names that are showing me, or any names that currently have a signal from that model that I just created, right? Here it is. So these AI models are not just designed to help the strategy creation process, but they are actually, you know, once you've found models that you're interested in exploring further, you can then utilize them across the platform on all of the various tools. So I think I'm going to kind of pause there, and I'm going to open the door for any questions. I feel like this seems like a pretty decent place to pause for a moment.
Yeah, and Jason, that was an amazing presentation. I'm learning more about TrendSpider myself, just observing here. So really appreciate all that you've shared. Let me go ahead and take a look around what we have here. And so one question comes in from Low Key. He's on the YouTube. This AI strategy tester is very interesting. I am wondering if it also works with Forex commodities, or is it strictly for equities?
I believe it's for everything. Let me see.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Anything you want.
Awesome.
Yeah, so with commodities, or rather with Forex in particular, right? Those moves are much smaller. So then you have to be mindful of your percentages for the take profit and the stop loss. Just keep that in mind when you're building these things out. Either you need to widen your window or increase your time frame for the for your training model, or for training the model, or you need to be kind of conservative when it comes to defining these exits. And something else that's worth noting, when you build a model, I'm just going to go to the, let's see here. When you build a model and it creates the strategy automatically for you, that criteria, the prediction window, and your R value, your take profit and your stop loss, ultimately that just becomes your exit criteria, right? So you can adjust that as you go. You can adjust it while you're developing models too. You know, if you see, you know, maybe this window, maybe you think, okay, well, I got this result back. This model doesn't look that good. This model doesn't look that good. This model doesn't look that good, and so on. Maybe I want to like alter something about the model. I can go into build up on it, and I can adjust any of this stuff. So I can, you know, change the window that I am analyzing to make it something different. I can change the prediction horizon to make it something different, right? I can adjust these things, and then essentially everything else will stay the same, and I can start training a new model, and I'll just continue the workflow that way. So, and there's lots of strategy and thought that can be put into developing your criteria for training a model. I don't want to give the impression that you can just go from just any old criteria in here to a great model. That's not, you're going to find very quickly that that's not the case. You do have to use the knowledge that you have as a trader when thinking through these models. But some of those basic ideas that I expressed, you know, define a horizon that actually makes sense for the asset that you're trading. You want to avoid strategy testing on the date range that you train the model on. That's going to be like basically strictly forbidden. You're actually given that prompt here in the strategy tester. Do not trust backtest results on training data. So when you're backtesting, make sure you're not utilizing trained data. You can always just utilize other assets too if you want to. But yeah, this tool is all about kind of exploring and making the strategy creation process a little bit simpler to get from point A to point B. Like I said, generally, if you're building an algorithmic strategy, it does require quite a bit of knowledge. This requires more so just kind of like logically thinking through your process and learning how the tool kind of works and what these different models look like. You'll very quickly see, so now we have a model that actually kind of looks interesting. And now maybe we would want to go and deploy this model and test it, right? You could see, like, I didn't do really anything. I picked some random data. I didn't even like think about it. So yeah, that's hopefully I've gone a little past the initial question, but hopefully that helps answer a little bit more about it.
It does. That's a great answer, Jason, and I appreciate you going into depth about it. I've got a couple more questions here that I'd love to share. One comes from someone on the Traderade Discord. Mayhem, part of my trading strategy is looking for classic VCP or volatility contraction patterns, the Mark Minervini strategy. I find because of the variance of parameters of this strategy, I typically have a hard time finding a scanner to help identify this pattern. I find myself basically pouring through charts to search for them. I've heard TrendSpider has a very powerful scanner. If you're familiar with this strategy, do you think it's possible to identify this with the TrendSpider scanner? So that Mark Minervini volatility contraction pattern, Jason, I defer to you on that. What do you think?
Yes, I actually know for a fact that it's possible. Funny enough, my colleague and I, one of my jobs here at TrendSpider is coming up with like fun things to share. So earlier this fall, we did a whole, what would you call it? A whole set of different pieces around CanSlim. The ability, since we have fundamentals, we have a tool called relative performance that allows us to find those IBD relative strength score setups. So we did a whole set of materials around CanSlim, and he and I were just talking the other day about the next thing that we want to do is like a suite of Mark Minervini strategies or like setups, and VCP was one of them. The way that let me see if I can find the scan that I made, because I admittedly made it in a different account than the one that I'm in right now. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. The way that I did it was using looking at the secret sauce here. This is not done. I want to be clear. This is not done. But the way that I did it was using range and defining range over different candle ranges, like range highs and range lows. So essentially, like, we're looking for decreasing range highs over short candle ranges and increasing range lows. This doesn't have any of the other stuff that he requires. I still need to kind of dig into that a little bit more. I'm sure he's got some criteria around market cap. I'm sure he's got some criteria around like where a name is at in its Weinstein process, somewhere in stage 2. I would imagine he's looking. But this was like a very basic start to the idea. Let's see what it finds. This was a first. Here's a name that kind of has that volume contraction look, just that triangle, essentially kind of that triangle look. Here's another one that looks like it's breaking out today. So it might leave the scanner here soon. But if you want to, you're more than welcome. Here's maybe a bit of a longer term start of a look. Again, this is very beginner. And I actually plan to work on this today because I wanted this to kind of be one of the next big rollouts that we have sometime early next year. But if you want to like take a screenshot of this, you're welcome to start here and build it on your end. I'm going to continue refining this and adding some of the additional criteria. Like, I have to assume he's probably got some minimum, maybe just like earnings or revenue. I don't know if he does, but I assume that he probably has some of that stuff. I would at the very least assume he has a relative strength score piece, like an IBD relative strength score. And we've got a new tool on the platform called relative performance. That is essentially the same thing as the IBD relative strength score. So this is going to be something that I'll use in the scan, maybe giving like some sort of minimum relative strength score. But again, I do need to do a little bit more research into it. But yeah, great question, because it's coming.
Thank you, Jason. That was a really awesome answer. And it's cool that you are working on some of those things over there at TrendSpider. The idea of finding new fun ways, employing some of these strategies that typically, like what was being asked, it requires a lot of just manual labor, looking at charts, looking for patterns, seeing if this plays out. The more that we can automate that as traders, the less time we have to spend just sort of manually poring over all kinds of data, the better we are at able to manage our time and execute well and kind of preserve mental capital. So I think that's really neat that that's a work in progress and likely something that's possible to do with the existing parameters. I had a couple more questions, and I think there's more coming in now. One, the person who posted them answered them himself by looking at the platform, but I still think they're good questions because it gets us into a very interesting area of discussion. So I'll lead with this one, and I know that you do, so I'm actually kind of tongue-in-cheek asking you this, Jason, to get a little bit more into how they can be used. So does TrendSpider have webhooks? And for folks out there that might be curious, this is a way you can interact with the platform, especially if you have something like a Discord bot. And then how can we put those into use? Just like sort of a surface view.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be done through, there's a couple of different ways. If you want, you can attach, like I'll just use a strategy, for example. We'll just grab something here. So if I wanted to like take this strategy and maybe start forward testing it, or even, connect it to a trading bot or what have you, the way that I would do it is just go to launch as a bot and utilizing our other product, Signal Stack. Let's see, there it is. So this is Signal Stack. This is our order routing engine. In Signal Stack, you can grab a hook and you could pop over to your strategy, grab it here. You can have these things, you can have the signal sent to your SMS, to your email, or via webhook. You would just input the webhook criteria here. You could change the quantities and create a bot. And just that fast, you are connected to your brokerage account, whether that be a live account or a paper trading account, what have you. If you want to connect to Discord, again, right here, this is not my absolute area of expertise. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't have my own Discord that I connect bots and things to, but yes, there is absolutely functionality to do so. You just need to have a quick read through this blog post and get yourself set up that way.
And I will say both Johnny Dankseed, who asked that, and I are excited about that because that's something we're going to be doing, is adding some of those TrendSpider capabilities to the Traderade Discord, both to be able to, benefit our members, to be able to have more points of data that can be actionable, but also to demonstrate some of the dynamism of the platform, because I really like it myself. And again, I've been using it for about 3 years. All right, let me go ahead back into the questions here. So the person who remarked about the VCP question, Blah, thanked you for your answer. And then someone also added in, Slowdown said, would love a VCP scan. Looking forward to it. The next question I have is about short interest or short volume on stocks. We know that we're kind of at a point right now where hedge funds are very, very short single stocks. There are all these sort of squeezy opportunities that are starting to set up. So maybe a two-part question, the way that I would like to look at this, Jason. How can TrendSpider display short interest or short volume or both? And then adding to that, can we use that as a qualifier for scans to potentially find setups that are looking a little squeezy?
So short interest, we don't offer. We do have short volume, and it's available in the other data tab. If you just click on the three dots next to other data and check it on. Let me see here. I am not super familiar with short volume as a tool. It's not something that I use in my personal process. Let me see if kind of don't think this is available as a scannable piece. Let me just make sure. I'm pretty sure it's just a visual. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just a visual piece. I can't include this. I suppose, though, we do offer custom indicator scripting.
Yeah.
So if you are a JavaScript script writer, or you're just fluent in creating scripts using ChatGPT, this data point does exist. So I imagine that we could create a custom indicator. It's very possible, actually, that in our this is our trading tool store. So there's a bunch of scanners and indicators and things that we have pre-built. There may be something in here that utilizes that value. Right off the top, I'm not sure if there is, but let me just check and see. It's not looking like there is. We've definitely been getting requests for short interest. It's something that we've run by the team, and like we've all said, customers would love to have this if possible. So perhaps it will come eventually.
Awesome.
As far as creating a custom indicator or a custom data set using short volume values, again, I'm not super versed on creating custom indicators using JavaScript. That is not my area of expertise. But one of the guys on our customer support team, James, the head of our support team, he's been doing tons of work in it, developing all kinds of different things. So what I would kind of recommend is feel free to reach out to him. Those guys are available every day of the week, Monday through Sunday, about 20 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and then about 8 hours a day on the weekend. They can be contacted via the contact us button, and you can just reach out. This is James right here. Reach out and just say, I'm trying to develop a custom indicator that utilizes short volume information. And they might be able to help at least kind of talk you a little bit through the process or give you some ideas for prompts that you can utilize in ChatGPT. I mean, it's so powerful these days what you can do with just saying, I want to utilize this data set. I want to make this sort of thing. And it can start building out the beginnings of the script for you. So that's where I would tell you to start.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely would add to the interest in short interest. I would consider myself among those in the feature request category for that, because that would be cool. It could help to set up some of the scans that can identify the squeezes. I love that you showed some of the add-ons that are out there in the TrendSpider marketplace. I look forward to joining those authors soon. I'm planning to bring the SPX options visualizer and a couple of other tools over to TrendSpider. It's part of my 2025 development roadmap. So really excited to work with you guys on that. And then I had a couple of other questions, and then we can wrap this up. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But one thing that I've heard about that you guys do that I have to be honest, haven't seen elsewhere with this level of commitment. So I wanted to just kind of ask you about it, ask you how it works. It's written on your website under the advanced plan. You get unlimited one-on-one help. And I have to say, I don't really think I've seen that anywhere else. So Jason, can you talk a little bit more about how that works? Is that basically soup to nuts? People are trying to learn more about how to get the best out of TrendSpider. They're on their advanced plan, and there's basically unlimited coaching or support?
So the way that the support works is essentially you select a time that you want to meet up with one of our customer support representatives. There are a handful of guys that you might get paired up with. It might be Matt here. This is Dwayne. We've got another guy, Justin, who's on the team as well. They all host one-on-one sessions, and one-on-one sessions are really designed to just help you learn about whatever it is that you might be interested in learning about. It could be diving deep on a specific indicator. It could be, broadly speaking, how to find, different, or how to script different criteria so that you can find those conditions being met in the scanner or with the scanner. It might be a session on how to read the various charts that are available in the strategy tester and how to kind of like understand what those charts are showing you. It can really kind of be whatever you want it to be. wherever you find yourself needing help on the platform, you're welcome to bring those questions. The big thing I think for everybody to remember is, come with ideas and come with something specific that you really want to focus on. I spent my first 2.5 years working here at TrendSpider on that team and working with folks every day, one-on-one, 8 people a day or whatever it was. And the biggest thing that I found to be true was that so often the folks who I spoke to just didn't really know what they wanted in the first place. Everybody knows that we utilize this tool to try and help us understand technical analysis and understand stocks so that we can make some money. But sometimes it stops there for people. I just want to know how to make a bunch of money. Well, the job of these guys is not necessarily to tell you that. It's to tell you, it's to show you how the product works and how to get the most out of it and to how to utilize the tools. So the big thing that I want to stress is, if you sign up for one of those sessions, just come in with questions, come in with solid, I want to learn more about how this thing works, whatever this thing might be. I think that's how you're going to get the best out of any of those sessions.
Yeah, 100% agree. I would say the same as someone who's worked with traders one-on-one. Like when you have a mindset as to this is what I want to focus on, these are the areas that I want to learn about, and sort of are ready to, take notes and have a good interactive session, you're going to get a lot more value for your time. So definitely come prepared and curious about specific stuff. And then let me just have one last look here, see if there's any other questions that we could start wrapping things up here, Jason. Really appreciate your time. So yeah, that is all the questions we have. I personally really enjoyed this presentation. I learned a lot about TrendSpider, so I appreciate that, Jason. And we're running a special promotion for TrendSpider right now. You can actually get up to 75% off that same advanced plan we mentioned that has the unlimited one-on-one. So if you visit the link that I've posted, if you're on Twitter, it's in my pinned, it's just on the second tweet there or the third tweet there, but it's trendspider.com. And then you use a question mark _go equals Traderade. So I'll post that around just a few more places, putting that in the chat room here so that you all can take advantage of this generous offer. It does end tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So be sure that if you want to get the 75% off, you can do so by visiting this link during that period of time, anytime during that window of opportunity. And of course, there will be other TrendSpider sales that happen throughout the year and going into next year as well. But this is a particularly awesome one. And I think that we got a good idea of what the value proposition here. So as a TrendSpider user and someone who's been an advocate for it for the past several years, and folks out there who know me, no, I don't endorse many companies, and I only really endorse the products that I use, that I trust, and that I feel add value to the trading process for us retail traders. So TrendSpider checks all the boxes. And Jason, really appreciate all your time here. As we wrap up, do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
Oh, closing thoughts. That's pretty tricky. I would say, first off, 75% off is crazy. That's a crazy deal. So if you're not yet a TrendSpider trader and you've considered it, you're not going to see a deal like that really anywhere else. That's better than the Black Friday deal that we offered, like the best Black Friday deal that we offered. So 75% off is pretty crazy. Secondly, like I said, lean on the team. We've got guys in chat, like I said, every single day, every day of the week. Those guys are there to help you. Don't, as always, come with questions, come curious, but lean on those guys because they're there to help with whatever questions you might have. I know that what I went through today, if you're new to the platform, you've never seen it, I know that everything that I just did probably looked really complex. I went through a lot of tools very quickly, and I always do my best to make the explanations of those tools as simple as possible, but I know that it's not that simple. I've been working in the platform for about 5 years now, so I'm pretty fluid with it. But lean on these guys as you're learning. Don't get frustrated with not knowing how to do something. You have a team of experts that are there to help push you along. So lean on them as you need to. And then I think maybe just the only other thing is, trade them well. If I guess maybe only other thing, last thing, if you get into working in the AI lab, which hopefully this is interesting to you and you want to play around with it. This is a brand new tool. We just launched this like 3-ish weeks ago. I'm still learning how it works. The whole team is still learning how it works. There's a lot of variables here that are kind of, we're still figuring out, right? It's AI building inputs for us. So understanding how those inputs are being built and what they all mean, this is a process that we're all kind of figuring out. So if you get to playing around in the lab and you stumble across something interesting, or you stumble across something that you're not sure about, like ping me, hit me up on Twitter at Krutsky Trades, and let me know what you found. Like, I'm really interested to see other people using this and how they use it and what they find, where they're finding success with it. Because again, kind of every model is a little bit of a crapshoot. I can do my best to mold it up to a point, but then once I start actually training models and seeing results, I don't really know what I'm going to get back. I can only kind of guess. And I've had some good luck with, developing models, coming in and adjusting inputs and using the knowledge that I have as a trader to kind of make these models a little bit more interesting and create strategies that actually do yield pretty decent returns. But I haven't seen a ton of sharing from our community of traders with this tool, and I think it's probably because, well, it's brand new and people are still struggling to learn how to utilize it effectively. So utilize those resources that I mentioned, the blog post here that also has a video, the webinar that we just hosted last week. It's all available on our YouTube page and such. Utilize this stuff and play around and let me know what you find, because I'm very curious to see how other people are using it and what kind of results they're getting.
Awesome. Well, Jason, I look forward to having you back in not too long. Really appreciate your time and all that you've shared today. And folks, if you do have more questions for Jason or for TrendSpider about this presentation, just pass them through to me and I'll be happy to pass them on and get you some answers. But for now, look forward to a recording of this being posted later today. And thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. And again, if you haven't checked out TrendSpider, this 75% off sale is a really good opportunity to check it out. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jason. We'll catch you soon.
Good, Mayhem. Appreciate everybody being here, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my friend. Until next time.